Hello and welcome everyone to my Commander deck tech for Prossh, Eater of Kobolds. This Commander deck uses Prossh, Skyrider of Kur as the commander. This deck is both incredibly powerful and incredibly heavy-handed in its attempts to win the match. This deck utilizes your Kobolds in a myriad of ways, while Prossh puts a ton of pressure on your opponents, always threatening death through commander damage. Before I go into the deck tech, I'll go over my history with the deck. Prossh was the first commander I ever used. I bought him in the commander precon that he came with. The default deck was pretty mediocre, however my playgroup at the time was just starting to play commander. Some time passed and our playgroup started to get more competitive, so I started looking online for ways to improve my Prossh deck. It didn't take me long to realize how much the commander community broke Prossh. There were so many easy, effective, and hard to stop combos that work with Prossh, which I'll go into in the video. Well, enough reminiscing. How about I tell you what exactly Prossh does? Prossh is a 5/5 flying dragon for 6 mana with a triggered ability which reads, when you cast Prossh, Skyrider of Kur, put X01 red kobold creature tokens named Kobolds of Kur Keep on the battlefield, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast Prossh. And he also has an activated ability which reads, sacrifice another creature, Prossh gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So Prossh does a lot of stuff. He's a flying beater that can pump himself up, and he also brings an army of fodder to do some shenanigans with. Prossh is one of the best creatures ever printed in Magic. He checks off the 3 boxes of being an excellent creature, something very few creatures can achieve. First, a good creature has to have good stats. Prossh is a 5/5 whose power can be pumped up further. Second, an excellent creature has to have evasion. Thanks to Prosh's ability to fly, he checks that box off too. Third, and I think most important, is gaining value. So if the creature gets removed, you still get something out of it, making you come up on top compared to the player that removed the creature. It's like they are down a card and you still get a portion of the card that you used. Prossh is incredibly special because he still gets the value even if he gets countered. I base this checklist on Siege Rhino, one of the most powerful creatures in Magic for Modern, and a format-defining creature when it was in Standard. Normally I'd go into a section comparing other possible commanders, however there is no comparison. The only creature that is comparable is Avenger Zendikar, which isn't legendary, but it is one of the most popular and powerful green creatures. I'm just saying that to reinforce why Prossh is so powerful. If you ever wanted to feel like an extremely difficult raid boss in a game where a huge party of people have to team up to take you down, much like a game commander, the whole table has to team up to take you down, then play this deck. It's like playing Arch Enemy without any Arch Enemy cards. Here are some of the pros to playing this deck. Like I said earlier, you get value through Kobolds, even if Prossh gets countered. No other commander brings an entire army with them when played, giving Prossh a unique edge. The deck can go wide with tokens, or focus your efforts into killing people off with Prossh. Killing players off commander damage is fairly easy for Prossh, although in my experience you only get enough attacks to kill one player in an average game. Infinite combos are way too easy to pull off with this deck. When you have infinite Kobolds, there are a myriad of ways to win on the spot. The deck has access to green, which allows you to ramp quickly into Prossh. Prossh has a unique ability of not giving a crap about removal. Oh no, you killed Prossh! Thanks pal, now I can get even more Kobolds. With the mini each opponent sacrifices a creature abilities in the deck, it can easily shut down Voltron strategies. You will always have chump blockers which discourages attacks towards you. Here are some of the cons to playing this deck. You have no access to blue, which means you can't run counter spells. Other than Prossh, this deck is weak to counter magic, which your opponents will save for your plays. A lot of the time you'll feel like you're playing Arch Enemy as the whole table teams up against you because of the obvious power of the deck. Subtlety is not this deck's strong suit. Any -1/-1 on the field abilities, especially Elish Norn, just wrecks this deck. Deal with those type of cards at all costs. In the anti-sacrifice cards, mostly just Angel of Jubilation, will shut this deck down. I'll start off by talking about the ramp in the deck. Awakening Zone gives you colorless ramp on every one of your upkeeps, and gives you tokens that you could use like Kobolds. Cryptolith Right is mostly used to summon Prossh again with the leftover Kobolds when Prossh gets removed, and it's used in a few of the infinite combos in the deck. Nissa's Expedition is often a 1 mana ramp spell since you can just tap those Kobolds for the convoke cost. It's helpful in allowing you to cast Prossh again. Mana Echoes will net you 37 colorless mana when you summon Prossh for the first time. However, the card is mostly in for its infinite combo potential. Xenaghost the Reveler. His +1 will get you a ton of red-green mana because of all the Kobolds. Cultivate and Kodama's Reach are both excellent spells that should be in any green deck that focuses on ramp. Explosive Vegetation and Skyshroud Claim get you from 4 mana to 6 mana, ensuring a Prossh the next turn. These are both excellent ramp spells for any deck that needs to ramp to 6+ mana. Farseek and Nature's Lore are 2 mana ramp spells that can get Shocklands and Battle Lands. Search for Tomorrow is a 1 mana 2-turn delayed ramp spell. Astronaut's Altar and Phyrexian Altar turn those Kobolds into mana. They also have a lot of combo potential in the deck. After playing Basalt Monolith, you should have enough mana to cast Prossh on your next turn. Mana Vault tries to get you to Prossh as quickly as possible. Soul Ring, its commander. Now I'll talk about what cards abuse these poor little pathetic kobolds for value or some other cheese. Westvale Abbey turns 5 of those dorky 0-1s into a giant 9/7 flying haste lifelink indestructible monster. Blood Artist and Zulaport Cutthroat both love having your kobolds die. They are also combo finishers when you have infinite kobolds. Deathbringer Thoktar turns those dead kobolds into 1 damage to a player or creature. Also, he is another combo finisher. Goblin Sharpshooter also turns dead kobolds into a damage. He can also be a combo finisher if he doesn't have summoning sickness. While Perforos is on the battlefield, you're summoning Prossh for 6 mana, you'll do 14 damage to each opponent. Summon Prossh again for 8 mana, and you'll be doing 18 damage, bringing the total to 32 damage to each opponent just by summoning your commander. Sadistic Hypnotist turns 1 kobold into a Mind Rot for only an initial mana investment of casting Sadistic Hypnotist. Sadisty Undead Vizier turns those kobolds into a one-time use demonic tutor. Goblin Bombardment turns those kobolds into 1 damage and is a solid sacrifice outlet. Also, it's another combo finisher. Shivan Harvest gives you another option of attack, destroying your opponent's lands. Phyrexian Altar and Astronaut's Altar turn those kobolds into mana. If you have some leftover kobolds when Prossh dies, you can usually just summon him again and refill your kobolds. Both are key parts of a few infinite combos in the deck. Using Helm of Possession, you can sacrifice a kobold to take control of a creature an opponent controls. You can usually sacrifice that creature with a sacrifice outlet, and then repeat this again on your next turn. Trading Post is an incredibly flexible sacrifice outlet that gives your artifacts some possibility to be recurred from the graveyard. This deck loves abusing tokens, so how do we make them? Prossh is obviously the main way of getting the tokens. He gets them on cast, so even if he gets countered, you still get the kobolds. Avenger Zendikar poops out a ton of plants that have the potential to grow into giant threats. The landfall ability is easily abusable because of all the ramp in the deck. Dragon Broodmother puts a 1/1 flyer on each player's upkeep, so it takes full advantage of the multiplayer format. It's also convenient that you can just have the tokens devour each other to get some big flyers. Dragon Lair Spider also takes advantage of the multiplayer format since it does a lot of work on other players' turns. Although Awakening Zone might be a little slow, it does produce tokens. The card's in the deck more for the ramp aspect, but the tokens can be useful. Both Doubling Season and Parallel Lives give you 2 times the tokens. Getting 12 kobolds instead of 6 is just absurd. Xenaghost can make satyrs, but usually you'll use him for his broken +1 ability. Trading Post makes some goats. Too bad Prossh don't make any goats. This deck is going to poop out a ton of 0-1 Kobolds. However, 0-1s obviously can't do any damage. So this deck runs a few ways to pump your tokens up for a turn with overrun effects, or give them a permanent boost with anthem effects. When Craterhoof Behemoth comes out, if you have 6 Kobolds, all your creatures will get +7/+7, meaning you'll have 54 trampling damage on board. Mazurek Crawl Death Priest gives you a bonus to your team when sacrificing. The optimal amount of Kobolds to sacrifice when you have 6 Kobolds and Prossh on the field is 4 or 5. Ogre Battle Driver gives Prossh and the Kobolds haste and a power boost, allowing them to swing for 19 plus damage. Also, he's another combo finisher. Pathbreaker Ebex is Craterhoof's little brother. He's a lot better if he has haste. Your team will usually end up swinging for 48 plus damage when he attacks. As you can see on the table on the right, Beastmaster Ascension pumps your team so they'll do 40 damage. Well, isn't that convenient? You and your opponent start at 40 life in Commander. Sarkin Vol's +1 gives your team +1/+1 in haste, which means he could be a combo finisher. His -2 being a threaten effect is easily abusable in a deck full of sacrifice outlets. Take one of your opponent's best creatures and then sacrifice them for value before the end of turn. When you use Overwhelming Stampede, if you have Prossh plus 6 Kobolds out, their total output will be 40 damage. The most efficient number is to have 5 or 4 Kobolds, sacrificing 1 or 2 to Prossh for a damage output of 42. Or you can sacrifice all 6 to pump up Prossh, then use Overwhelming Stampede to deal 22 commander damage. This deck is in the Jund colors, so we get access to some of the best removal in the game. Red and black can deal with creatures, while green can deal with artifacts and enchantments. Nature's Claim being only 1 green mana at instant speed makes this card the most efficient artifact/enchantment destruction spell in Commander, with a very small drawback of giving that player 4 life. However, even that can be used to your advantage to give you extra life in a pinch. Pyroblast gives you a little bit of counterspell protection when you're trying to go off of one of your combos, or it can just destroy a blue permanent. Pretty good for 1 red mana, especially since blue is the most popular and powerful color in Commander. If either Butcher of Malakir or Dictated Erebos are on the battlefield and you sacrifice 6 Kobolds, you will usually wipe your opponent's board of creatures. These cards are especially brutal against Voltron decks. Vraska the Unseen has potentially reusable non-land permanent destruction, which is pretty enticing, and her ultimate is just plain silly. Blasphemous Act is a 1 mana board wipe. That's the lowest costed board wipe in Commander. Prossh is a dragon, so when you cast Crooks of Fate, he'll just eat all your creatures that are going to die, then swing in at an opponent for a ton of damage. Damnation is the Black Wrath of God. It's just a solid board wipe, and sometimes the board just needs to be wiped to creatures, even when you play a creature heavy deck. Hullbreach being able to hit 2 relevant card types for 2 mana is pretty efficient. Toxic Deluge is a 3 mana board wipe, one of the lowest costed board wipes. It also gets around indestructible. It's probably the best board wipe in black. I usually only play commanders that have some sort of card advantage on them, since I always have access to them from the command zone. That means I should never be in the dreaded top deck mode. That being said, Prossh doesn't have any card advantage on him, so there needs to be a decent amount of card draw in the deck to make up for the fact that Prossh doesn't give any card advantage. I usually only use Grim Backwoods in a pinch, since 5 mana is a lot to draw 1 card. However, if you're in top deck mode, this land might just get you the extra card that you need. Skull Mulcher turns those Kobolds into a card. If you have infinite Kobolds, you can draw your entire deck, so you can grab a combo finisher to close out the game. Evolutionary Leap turns those Kobolds into a useful creature from your deck. Sylvan Library is the best green card draw spell in Commander, and just one of the best card draw spells in the format. It's an auto-include in any deck that can run it. Skull Clamp turns your Kobolds into sacrifice this creature, draw 2 cards. It's one of the best card draw spells for a deck like this. When you use Court of Calling, you could tap your Kobolds for the Convoke cost. However, you will still need to pay the 3 green mana since the Kobolds are red. Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor are the best cards in Commander. They are auto-includes in every deck that runs black. This is the land base that I run in the deck. Blood Crypt, Overgrown Tomb, and Stomping Grounds are the shock lands for Jund. Bloodstained Mire, Verdant Catacombs, and Wooded Foothills are the fetch lands for Jund. I usually put Bojuka Bog in every deck that runs black. Having access to some sort of graveyard hate is necessary for every deck, and Bojuka Bog is one of the graveyard hate cards with the least opportunity cost, since its ability is attached to a land. Command Tower goes in every multicolored deck in Commander. Cinderglade and Smoldering Marsh are the two available battle lands for Jund. Dragon Skull Summit, Woodland Cemetery, and Rootbound Crag are the check lands for Jund. Both Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse grab the color of mana that you need at the cost of the land coming into play tapped. Exotic Orchard should be played in every deck with 3 or more colors. It's usually just another command tower. Grim Backwoods has card draw when you need it. High Market protects your creatures from exile and control effects. Also can kill off Prossh if you need to play him again to get more Kobolds. Mana Confluence should be played in every multicolored deck. Reflecting Pool is usually just another command tower, except if it's the first land that you've played, then it doesn't do anything. Savage Lands is a command tower that comes into play tapped. Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth goes in every multicolored deck that runs black. It makes your mana just a little bit more consistent. It's basically just a strictly better swamp that isn't fetchable. Westvale Abbey is a big old scary demon on a land. There are quite a few combos in the deck, all involving getting infinite Kobolds, which leads to infinite mana, infinite death triggers if you have a sacrifice outlet like Prossh, and infinite enter the battlefield triggers. Food Chain is the main win con in most Prossh decks. Okay, let me explain how a combo works for the uninitiated. Prossh and at least 2 Kobolds need to be on the battlefield, depending on commander attacks. You exile Prossh to gain 7 mana of one Jund color, and exile 2 Kobolds for the other Jund colors. You can then cast Prossh, getting 8 Kobolds. You can then repeat this process an infinite amount of times, netting Kobolds every time you cast Prossh. Cryptolith Rite plus Mana Echoes plus Haste plus a sacrifice outlet for Prossh gives you infinite mana and Kobolds. Mana Echoes gives you all the colors mana that you need, and Cryptolith Rite turns those Kobolds into Birds of Paradise, but you need Haste to tap them. Then you need a way to kill Prossh, so you can cast him over and over again since Prossh can't self-cannibalize. Yeah, this combo's pretty convoluted and doesn't happen too often. Ashnod's Altar plus Cryptolith Rite plus Haste gives you infinite mana and Kobolds. This one's a little bit more reasonable since Ashnod's Altar does double duty, being able to provide colorless mana and a sacrifice outlet for Prossh. Here's another convoluted combo. Cryptolith Rite plus Parallel Lives or Doubling Season plus Haste plus a sacrifice outlet for Prossh equals infinite mana and Kobolds. Having double the Birds of Paradise Kobolds gives you enough mana to cast Prossh infinitely. Phyrexian Altar plus Parallel Lives or Doubling Season gets you infinite mana and Kobolds. Getting double the Kobolds means you'll have enough to sacrifice the Phyrexian Altar to cast Prossh an infinite amount of times. Ashnod's Altar plus Phyrexian Altar. When the 2 altars combine, they create infinite mana and Kobolds. Mana Echoes plus Phyrexian Altar gives you infinite mana and Kobolds. Mana Echoes gives you all the colors mana you need, and Phyrexian Altar will provide Jund colors using Prossh and 2 Kobolds. So how do we win when we have infinite mana and Kobolds? Both Blood Artist and Zulaport Cutthroat drain your opponents with infinite Kobold death triggers. Goblin Sharpshooter and Deathbringer Thoktar deal infinite damage to your opponents with infinite death triggers. Purphoros deals infinite damage with infinite enter the battlefield triggers. Goblin Bombardment kills off your opponents with direct damage using your infinite Kobolds. Skullmonster uses your Kobolds to draw your entire deck. Craterhoof, Mazeric, Ogre Battle Driver, Pathbreaker Ebix, Beastmaster Ascension, and Overwhelming Stampede all give you infinite combat damage by boosting the power of your infinite army of Kobolds. It would suck if one of your opponents uses Fog. Let's go over how this deck wins. There are 4 main win conditions: comboing out in the myriad of ways available in the deck, commander damage with Prossh, a lot of damage with overrun effects, or direct damage through Kobold shenanigans with a card like Perforos or Goblin Bombardment. I want to thank you for watching my deck tech on Prossh Skywraith of Kur. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'd appreciate if you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And again, thanks for watching.